Hey YouTube, this is Prometheus, guys, giving you more than meta. So guys, I want to actually talk about defensive coverage shells, the difference between all different types of coverage shells, whether it's going to be cover one man coverages or zone coverages. This is going to be a 4-part series, maybe a 5-part series, but I want to kind of show you basic fundamentals of defensive coverages. If you guys are new to the game, you definitely need to watch. You want to go ahead and hit the button to basically save this. You probably need to come back to this again in the future, and also subscribe, because I'm going to actually launch a bunch of other videos to talk about defensive coverages, where you're going to be able to discover the weaknesses and essentially understand how to run the coverages successfully. So we're going to focus on basically man coverages, and essentially we have 3 different shells that we look at. We got a cover 2 man shell, we got a 0 blitz, and then we have a cover 1 show, a cover 1 blitz or man coverage. And there's many different things that you need to be conscious of when you're actually running these. So let's go ahead and jump into the first breakdown. Really what you're looking at first and foremost is cover 2 man. This is probably one of the most popular defenses that you can use online. It is a great defense to use in the very beginning of a game, just to get a feel for what your opponent does and how he attacks. Now, I do want to point out you have 2 high safeties. These guys play deep halves, and they support any kind of long balls or passes. So if you're in a situation where your opponent needs to score quickly, like at the end of half, where it's like 30 seconds or less than that, this is a really good defense to jump into. One other thing too is that these guys, these defensive players, they usually play down on the line of scrimmage, and they'll actually go ahead and push and press the wide receiver. And one of the responsibilities too is that they're going to shade to the inside. So if a guy does any kind of a crossing route, they're supposed to shade in the inside and cover that type of stuff. So the way you want to attack this defense, if you run into it, is that you want to be looking for any kind of out routes more than anything else. Deep comeback routes, those are going to be things that are going to be able to attack this defense, because any kind of crossing routes should be shaded so the defender is actually in that position. Now, there's other things you can do to attack these defenses, and I'll kind of show you in this little breakdown of looking at the defense. So one thing I like to do usually when I'm running against an opponent, I like to go ahead and use a run play, in particular run play that actually has these blocking icons that are going to go up really high. This is going to give me a better read. Now, how you tell it's cover 2 is a very simple read, unless a guy's disguising his coverage. Basically, 2 high safeties are basically equal distance with it, and all the defenders with 2 man are shaded slightly in the inside. When they're shaded on the inside, that means that basically that if there's any kind of drag routes or crossing routes, they're going to try to get underneath that and actually stay on that. This is a really good base defense to go ahead and use. I do want to point out one thing to you, that there is a weaknesses against the runs. When it comes to run fit responsibilities, basically these guys, everybody on the line, and the defensive backs, they all have run fit responsibilities. Now, these guys don't, because they're actually playing deep halves, so their responsibility is to protect over the top for passing. But one thing I do want to point out is that certain plays are actually susceptible. So inside zones, outside zone plays, if they have these long type blocking icons for inside zone or outside zones, basically what happens is the defender is not going to play the run. He's going to turn his back and play the wide receiver. So here's a little trick. If you do run into somebody who runs a lot of cover 2 and you still want to run against them, just use inside zones or outside zones, and you actually can go ahead and abuse their outside leverage defenders, because these guys, as you can see, they're not even reacting to the ball. I already got the ball down through this gap right here, and I can turn it up for some pretty easy yards. So outside runs are really particularly good against anybody who runs like cover 2 man type situations, because you can see how these guys actually carry. They don't react to the ball, and by the time they actually react to the ball, they're about 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, essentially giving up 10 yards. So these are something that a lot of people really don't talk about when it comes to attacking cover 2 coverages. So as I stated before, The weakness of this defense is any kind of out routes. So if you got guys doing out routes, those are the ideal situations when you're trying to attack this type of a defense. So they leverage the inside. So if you do have any kind of crossing, mesh concept type situations, these are going to be routes that are actually going to get covered up pretty effectively. Now, the longer the stem, the deeper the route, and maybe better separation. But take a look. This guy's right on top of this route. This guy's right on top of this route. Any kind of wing route is actually covered up. This guy's right on top of this route. He's got a little leverage, but he's got a lot more speed and a really good route running. But for the most part, this is a good play to go ahead. If you got a guy who runs a lot of drags against you, a lot of slants, this is actually not a bad play to go ahead and use, because a lot of times these guys are actually going to go ahead and carry with those routes and basically give up just a handful of yards if they do catch a ball. Sometimes basically pick those balls off. So this is what you have to be conscious of when you play cover 2, but you also want to make sure that you understand that these guys are playing back for deep halves, so they're actually protecting these deep halves for any kind of throws. So we'll go ahead and show you a breakdown on that. So let's see if we go ahead and streak something up right here. With this concept. Now actually I'm just going to show you the whip. Look at this whip route. Look at the separation, because this guy has inside leverage, and then you have the separation here on the outside. So I love using whip routes against cover 2 man people that like to go and use cover 2. They get really good separation. Any out routes, any kind of cut routes that are very fast and that you complete, you want to go and do that. One thing I do want to point out is that if you do have a route that gets really good depth, he actually could go into this deep half. So that's bracketed coverage. That's a very risky throw against cover 2 man, so you need to be conscious of that. So let's go ahead and jump into another thing to be conscious of. If you are like someone who likes to lob streak, the problem with lob streaking against cover 2 man is that you're going to have safety support over the top of the field. So you can see that these guys are backing up, they're playing their deep halves, and they're going to support any kind of lob streaks over the middle of the field. But if you do 2 verticals and then you have a deep post, sometimes you can actually get over the top of that. So a deep post route right over the middle of the field will allow you to go and attack your opponent. So tight end routes, in particular with like play action routes, are really, really good. So if you have a third wide receiver in the middle of the field, you can use that to attack this type of defense. But you have to understand that if you are playing using this defense, you want to make sure you protect the middle of the field, or use the guy over the third wide receiver that could be attacking the middle of the field. So let's talk about basically cover 1 hole. Now the difference between cover 1 hole and cover 2 is cover 2 you've got your deep halves. Now you got your help in the middle of the field. So ideally you want to the defense wants to try to funnel people into the middle of the field with this coverage. What's also really good about this is that you have an extra run fit responsibility, so you have another guy that's going to come down. So cover 1 hole press is a really good defense to use if you got a guy that likes to run the ball a little bit. You can use this middle safety and then have basically coverage all over the field. One thing I do want to let you know is that cover 1 hole, the way that the concept is actually designed is that these guys actually have the sideline giving some protection. It's an extra defender. So these guys should be shaded onto the inside, just like cover 2. But these guys actually have an area of the field where they actually, they can give up the outside. So these defenders that are over the wide receivers, the slot receivers, they should be shaded on the outside. Now, right now, Madden 24 is not necessarily play like that. It could change with a new patch, but currently, right now, they kind of give up those corner routes. So that is a way to attack your opponent. But really, what they should leverage to the outside. They try, but sometimes you can force basically those passes into those throws. So let's take a look at the angle smash concept right here. And you can see that this guy carries, in this type of situation. You've got these guys right here playing their man assignments, but you also have got this guy in the middle of the field, and you obviously have the deep guy in the middle of the field that actually try to cover things up. So if you got a guy that likes to cross a lot and do little crossing routes, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to wait a little bit longer and get past that hole defender before they can throw the ball. So this is a good defense to sprinkle into your scheme, just to keep your opponent off guessing a little bit. Now, another thing you can do with this particular defense is you can drop your defensive lineman into like hard flats, just to try to protect against any kind of little crossing routes or underneath routes. But I would say probably cover 2 man's maybe a little bit better thing to do But you can see how this pretty much has a defender on everybody, and you just have to basically throw against leverage. So let's go ahead and jump into this really quick, show you the adjustments. Like in these little corner things, these guys should be shaded to the outside and should ride. That's what they should do. That's what cover 1 whole man should. They should have outside leverage. But a lot of times what happens is these guys just get toasted. This tight end just might be just a better tight end, but take a look at this guy. He's got inside leverage, and it really shouldn't. He shouldn't be going like that with a cover 1 hole, and that's how you can get this little completion. So that's one of the things I've discovered going against cover 1 hole, is that you can basically hit corner routes. So if I do see someone that is running basically cover 1 hole against me, I'll try to hit the corner route, in particular with the tight end. The tight end's really good for the corner route. You can hit that and get a nice little completion. One thing I did discover with cover 1 hole is that these guys release and get back right away. So last year with cover 1 hole, if I saw a cover 1 hole defense, and it's pretty easy to read. These defenders usually are lined straight up on your guys, not shaded on the inside, and then I'll usually have a single high safety. Usually what I would do is I'd just throw over the top of them. Was typically what I did is I would just wait for the press animation, get past the press animation, and I'd lob streak someone for a touchdown. But cover 1 hole is different. That those outside guys, basically those outside defensive backs, will actually go ahead and protect against basically a deep throw. So look how this guy is just staying over the top of it. He stays over the top of that particular play, and it's hard to lob streak over the top of cover 1 hole. So this is another good defense, a better defense to run, but you probably want to try to attack those corners, those outs. Those are the particular routes that are probably not going to get separation against you. Obviously, you can do a halfback wheel like that too, if you have that as one of your base plays that you can use. So let's just take a look at this one more time and how I would attack this. Deep comeback routes are really good too, because they have to play over the top coverage based on this. So if you can hit your opponent with deep comeback routes or curl routes, that actually will help too. So that's just another option that you could throw into your scheme. So right here, corner route, streak, comeback route. So the streak gets covered up, but the deep comeback route is something you can use. So these are plays I like route combinations I like to use against cover 3 or cover 4 types coverages, but it's just something you can throw into your scheme. But you can throw these corner routes. You have to throw them early because the defender will undercut that if you get a little bit too close to the sideline. So last play we're going to take a look at essentially is going to be all-out zero blitzes. So you're really going to be just hammering somebody with pressure. These are, obviously mid blitzes and one of those more popular plays and stuff like that. But you have to take in consideration is the middle of the field is wide open. Also, you can out leverage guys to the flat. You've also got slant routes that you can hit against your opponent. So if you got a guy that blitzes a lot, you need to have passing concepts that can abuse that blitz if they try to do that against you. So you can see right here some passing concepts. One of the things I like to do is a simple passing concept is I like to go ahead and smoke route this guy, because a lot of times if I got off coverage I can hit a little out or an outside pressure. The challenge with mid blitzes is that you got to get rid of the ball quick. So if you're going to make your route combinations, you want to do things really, really quick against your opponent. If it's off pressure, basically you want, or off coverage, you can hit those little slants or drag routes, but that usually will go into the middle of the field. And when you go into the middle of the field, that's where user territory is. That's where players are usually going to try to bait you into making bad decisions. So you have to take that in consideration. Once again, whip routes are really, really good to use against your opponent. It's just one of the staple plays I like to use against people who use a lot of man coverages. So let's see if whip route, and then you also have basically deep post routes that if you complement it correctly, you can actually hit people over the middle of the field. So let's see if I go ahead and jump in here and make an adjustment. Right here I've got a whip, and then I'm going to go ahead and swing this guy to the outs. See how this guy actually kind of bites down and plays that line. If I got a deep post over the middle of the field, I can hit that area if I just get enough time, and you can see where I can get a completion, and then if I rack that, I can get a touchdown. Another thing I like to do is that when I like to throw in my schemes just a stock out route that I can quickly jump into. So if I got a guy that runs a lot of aggressive blitzes, I want to be able to hit him with the stick out because he, as a man coverage defender, he also has to protect over the top of the field. So he's going to give up those little quick in routes and stuff like that. So this is something I like to throw into my schemes when I'm going against somebody. So right here, you got press type situation, and basically what we want to do is just try to swing things over. Got a swing route. I've also got basically the deep post that you can hit, and obviously you can get yourself touchdowns if you got a guy that runs a lot of mid blitzes against you. But that's one of those things that you have to throw. You have to consider. Deep comeback routes are good. They just take a long time to actually hit. So you want to be conscious of that. This is a nice concept that you can use. I believe it's called Dragon, where you can pull this guy out, and that's going to open things up on the backside. So this is just a quick little passing concept that you can use. And then curl flats will actually work really well against someone that's playing off coverage. So really, someone runs a lot of mid blitzes against you, they're going to have to zone drop their defenders to do that. Curl flat. So here, this is a curl flat concept. Got the little curl, the guy gets out of position. You can turn that up for some pretty big yards. So those are just little concepts that you can use against your opponent. And then also, just having the swing concept with the running back. This guy's probably manned up over here. He's going to have to come out and actually play that. And then if you got yourself a deep post on the backside, you can hit that on the backside. So it stretches your opponent horizontally, and then you also can hit him over the top for a big play. So let's just watch this in action. See how this guy's out leveraged. He can't get down to this route. You can throw that. You can keep beating your opponent up in the flat, and then if he keeps biting down on that, then you can actually go and hit him over the top for a big post opportunity over the middle of the field. So you can see right here, complete that for a touchdown. So once again, guys, this is part one of a two-part series. If you do like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'll be showing you some more different breakdowns of different types of coverages and how to expose it. So thank you for support. Until next time.